Howdy, folks. Today we're going creative because we'll be talking wildlife photography in your backyard with a musical twist right after this. Welcome to Camera Shake, where we bring you the insider scoop on all things photography and videography, giving you a unique opportunity to stay ahead of the curve. We've spent literally hundreds of hours interviewing some of the most renowned photographers of our time, giving you access to knowledge and expertise that's not available anywhere else. As always, I'm your host, Kirsten Lutz, and if you enjoy this content, consider lending your support on buymeacoffee.com/camerashake to help us create more exciting episodes for you. Your support really does make a difference. But without further ado, let's give it up for today's special guest, award-winning photographer, jazz musician, and all-round one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet, all the way from the real Holland, Michigan. Give it up for Mr. Paul Kober. Paul, how are you today?
All right, how are you doing today? It's a
very
beautiful
good.
fall day in the real Holland.
Yeah, fall has landed over here in the UK too. It's it's been surprisingly warm for this season.
Yes.
until very recently.
About a week ago, fall came.
Yeah. Well, we've spent a week together in Norway only recently. We were talking about this just before we went on air, because we spent a week in Norway shooting the Northern Lights with some Viking models in there as well. How did you recover from your Norway trip?
I have recovered. It was a great experience. It really was. You and Dave Williams did an amazing job. It really was fantastic. Once in a lifetime, right place, right time. I said that many, many times, and the models, there's such a difference. How authentic they were, because you can get a model to stand there and scream. It would not have been the same. They were both great.
Yeah, I thought it was a great combination of being in one of the most beautiful landscapes in the world, and then being able to actually put an incredible model into the scene. Whenever you wanted to do that, because they were with us all the time, like for the whole trip, every day,
24/7.
Yeah, literally 24/7.
I've told everybody, literally, every spot is a photo. Am I right? I mean,
Absolutely,
just driving around, it's like, oh, there's a photo, there's a photo, there's a photo. And I've told Dave I want to go back for 3 months. I have to work out how. Because the fall, it was so lush. Everything was so green. And then I want to see all the way to the crazy snow stuff. That's the one thing I miss. I didn't get the snow shots.
And of course, the next workshop's going to happen on at the end of January, the 25th of January to the 1st of February, and that's going to be right in the middle, slapping in the middle of the Arctic winter, and it's going to be white, so it's going to be snow galore, and it's going to really change the landscape. You're right. When we were there, we had the sort of Arctic tundra look. It was like, it was a rough terrain. It was granite rocks, incredible mountains. Like, it just looked brutal, actually, for the most part. And like you said, there was a photo every. I remember that one time we were in the van, because we spent a lot of time in the van together. Traveling up and down the island change. Yeah,
Dave was so good. We got to go now.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. At dinner, guys, be ready in 20 minutes because the Northern Lights happen.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's like after a whole day of shooting landscapes and models in the countryside and stuff. But I remember this one time we were in the van and we were just driving along, and I remember I turned my head and I said to Dave, "Hey, we better stop here because I think there's a really cool little location right there." And then we all got out, and it was literally, you could turn left, awesome shot. You look straight ahead, awesome shot. You turn right, incredible backdrop. We spend most part of the afternoon just in this one spot, creating all these different images, landscape photography, model photography, all sorts of different stuff.
Models on location with flash.
Yeah.
Yeah,
on location lighting. Yeah, we had all the gear all the time. Yeah. What was the thing that made you decide to go on this workshop in the first place?
I met Dave the year before, and we hit it off, and we're chatting, that kind of stuff. And he was telling me all about it, and it just sounded amazing. But with the models that we had, they were so good. And I told both numerous times, the only bad shot are the one because of something that the photographer did. You know, every flash, it was a different pose. They were just fantastic. And, you know, Dave and I, you know, we're talking, he says, you got to see when it's all green too. So sometime, a year or two, sometime I'm going to go back and go there for all the snow shots, you know. But like the little the triangle house with the triangle mountain behind, you always see it with snow, and I'm like, he's right, it looks nice without snow, you know. And you have the fog, so much fog back then going over the you know, the mountains. That kind of, there's when I'm going through my picks, 90% of them are picks. It's just like, how do I narrow it down? I have 30 amazing shots of one location. And I told Dave, the problem is there's too many good shots, which really isn't normally a problem.
Yeah.
But, you know, I want to do an Adobe Spark page and I'm going to print some stuff out, but which one?
Yeah.
And I was telling you guys, and Dave said, that's a great problem to have. It is a great problem to have.
Yeah, it's, you know, I feel the same.
Which one?
Yeah, I have exactly the same problem. It's, you know, it was the very first night, because we arrived a little bit before the rest of the gang. And
correct.
The very first night we went out, and the aurora was really incredible. It was just, you know, the Northern Lights were going crazy.
I'll always remember that, you know, when Dave's going, you see that, and we're like, well, maybe. And then like 2 or 3 minutes later, and we're working on, wait, sorry, I'm the cats. We're working on the camera settings, and this one time Dave just says, look up, and we're like, because you get so focused on, it's tough. You know, it's tough photographing the Northern Lights.
Wasn't it? I mean, that really did surprise me, actually. I have to say, I wasn't really quite prepared for that because, you know, I sort of thought, well, you know, I've shot a lot of concerts. You know, I spent 10 years or something shooting concerts and whatnot. And I sort of thought, you know, yeah, low light photography, I've got that down, you know, no big deal sort of thing. But I have to say, and I've probably said this before in this podcast, I have to say, like, for me personally, shooting the Northern Lights was probably the single most difficult thing in photography that I've ever done. You know, for a number of reasons. One, it's pitch black. Like, if anybody ever try and focus in the pitch black, that's hard. And, you know, that very first night, I remember, you know, coming back home and like uploading my photos on a computer and looking at the shots and thinking, damn, like 85% or something out of focus. Like, what's going on, you know? So that was
I told Dave,
yeah.
Well, I told Dave, I have the best out of focus shots I've ever taken, because, you know, I had a new lens that I never focused to infinity before, because, you know, you can see the old Canon, it stopped at infinity, and then you would backtrack a little bit. This kept spinning, so it's like, where is infinity? I have amazing shots. When you look at them this big, they look great. you know, but you blow up, it's like, oh. And Dave was so helpful because the shots that are in focus are the ones he did. Because how do you focus on black? That's why
exactly.
I wanted another shot at the Northern Lights. You know, and it's tough. It's tough. the photography I do is time consuming, a lot of sitting, but this was the hardest, the most challenging stuff.
Yeah, it really was challenging. And I think, I thought to myself, I love the experience. And this is, I'm saying this like, with the utmost sort of humbleness. To me, I loved it because I almost felt like a beginner again. When it comes to photography, and I actually loved that feeling. I really, really felt like I learned a lot. And you can give me a model and some lights, and I can make something happen like with my eyes shut. I've been doing this for a long time. I know how to do that. But photographing the Northern Lights, I really felt like I really almost felt like a kid again. It's like
way out of your comfort zone. Way out of comfort zone.
Way out. It was such a challenge
because I was.
I kind of feel that as a photographer, no matter what it is that you do, whether you're a portrait photographer or a landscape photographer or whatever, or sports photographer or something, it's
animal and instruments,
which we're going to talk about in a second, of course. No matter what it is, it's so valuable to sometimes just to really do something that's so far out of your comfort zone, and all it can do is it can teach you a lot of things, and it ultimately it'll just make you a better photographer. Like it certainly made me a better photographer. And and that's only we're talking about the photographic challenges. There were physical challenges. The fact that sometimes it was cold, sometimes it was windy. You got to deal with all those sort of things. The weather, that was a challenge sometimes. Because and just simply, especially that first night. I mean, there were so many occasions where I just forgot to press the shutter button because I was just looking up and all this stuff was happening. I was like, what is going on? The next morning, this is funny actually, when we came back from that night of shooting, the next morning, I get in the shower and I'm like, oh man, I think I must have like pulled a muscle or something, because I literally spent all night just looking up like this, and like the next morning, my neck was killing me.
Looking up,
it was incredible. So it's a really good idea to just challenge yourself. So when you joined
you did that too with me, because we worked on the low-key portraits, which I wanted to do. So I had two things that took me out of my comfort zone. With my birds, I use flash, but it's way different than the low-key stuff. So I learned a lot, and I look at the pictures, and because we spent a lot of time talking about it, which they do on the workshops, you get lots of one-on-one attention. And so we did that. And I remember a lot of times, it's just you and I and Ruth, and going back and forth. And now I look at them and I know, we all know it's a matter of inches. Sometimes I don't even think it's an inch that makes a difference. And that to me was amazing. So now I'm working on the low key portraits, which I want to start doing next. So thank you. But that was a great, I learned two things I was not comfortable with at all. And now I feel like I can be dropped somewhere and do them both.
Yeah.
No?
Exactly.
So that was amazing.
I think that was, overall, I think that's sort of, one of the most amazing things about this workshop is really that it's all about photography all day long, and although we're having a lot of fun, but actually, we spent so much time in the van together. So we, of course we did master classes and we went on countless locations to shoot, but actually it's just, sometimes you learn a lot just from a conversation that you have in the van whilst we're driving to the next location or something like that. I was just
going to say that just in the van was master classes, because we all specialized in different things, and you had Bill there, but it just like everybody has their own expertise. And then talking to the models, because how many times do you get to talk to a model and hear their perspective of what's going on and what they want, what they like, and I remember in the cabin, Bill was talking to Bob, about the shot and that kind of stuff. And he says, you can spend all your time setting it up. So once the model gets there, you're not looking at it. It's going to be perfect. Everything's set up perfect. And he talked to, the model, Mara, I think?
Maria. Yeah.
Maria. I never say it right. What do you think about when somebody takes a picture and looks? She doesn't like it because it messes up their flow.
Yeah.
Because every time there's a flash, they're moving to a next pose. So he's like, it doesn't matter if it takes an hour, 2 hours to set it up. And you have somebody set up, somebody just sit in there to get the light right. But then when the model comes, snap, 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 take like 30, 40, 50, and then just do a real quick look. Yeah, it's still good. Take another 30, 40, 50. So it was, there's so much knowledge going on, but every place, like even the van, everybody's giving their inputs and everybody's listening and everybody's talking. It was, and I can't believe, and a lot of times we had to drive 2 hours. All of a sudden we're here, we're like, wow. It was, the van, we spent a lot of time in the van, but it didn't feel like that.
No, exactly. That was the thing. Yeah, it really didn't feel like,
maybe to Dave.
I don't know. He was singing. He was singing most of the time.
Well, that's true. He's quite the vocalist.
But there was, the thing that really surprised me, I remember landing, at the airport and just flying in, you look out the window, you go, wow, this is breathtaking, like the landscape and the mountains and the sea and, that. And you get out of the plane, you look around and you go like, this is nuts. And then we drove to Sonoya and you look out the car window and you think, this is incredible. And about a week later, you drive around, you go, oh, yeah, that's another beautiful location. And yeah, oh, another mountain.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, saw that. What's weird is, and I was talking to Dave, he posted a picture and I said, where was this? And he said, we were there. And I'm like, because you saw so many spots, and I'm looking, I'm like, oh, I do have shots there, but, and then they look different. Remember, I think it was the first night, the two of us with the Northern Lights in that little, it's not a barn, but
the hut. Yeah, like a little hut.
The hut. There you go. The little hut. Where we're there in the daylight, I didn't even know it was the same thing.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, yeah, I had the same.
Because it looks,
the same
it's so dark, you can't see anything that's there. You don't know what's there. And he's like, oh no, we're here at nighttime. Even the building with the graffiti on it.
Oh yeah.
We drove by that at the daytime, and that was different. It's just like, oh.
Yeah, and that's just the thing. It's, the landscape there's so beautiful. And of course, I always say, because of the way that the light falls there, you can shoot the same landscape in so many different ways, depending on what time of day you're there, what time of the year you're there. The January February workshop is going to be somewhat a different experience because the whole landscape is going to look different. It's going to be covered in snow.
I would love to go to that. I can't, but I would love just to see the exact same place at winter.
Yeah.
But I will get there again, and it will be a winter stuff. But
yeah,
I can't this January.
But you're used to winter and wintry temperature in Michigan, Holland,
in the real
Michigan.
Holland.
I'm sure it's in the real Holland. Yeah, I'm sure it gets cold where you live.
Yeah, I do a lot of stuff, lighthouses in the winter, where I'm out there for several hours. It's below freezing. The wind's hitting in your face, which is a whole nother, every time you photograph, you're learning stuff, and shooting lighthouses in the winter because you want all the the ice frozen and moving, the movement, that kind of stuff with the ice. But there's things you have to learn. But you're literally standing still for hours in the freezing, and for that, I use a trigger. At home I do not, but for there I'm using the trigger, and just because it's so cold. And then the photograph gloves are great, except you have to pick your finger up. And 2 minutes out there in that weather, it's ready to fall off. So you have the trigger there, but it gets cold. I love winter. I don't do well in heat. I don't like heat. I could never move down south. I'd move north if I moved anywhere.
I never
north
thought
of the
I'd
Arctic
find
Circle.
myself. Yeah, I never thought I'd find myself up in the Arctic. I've always been more like, oh yeah, give me a beach. I'm good at the beach. No problem.
Yeah,
but I've learned to love it.
Wait, north of the Arctic Circle.
That's it. Exactly. We were even further north than that. We were like 68 degrees.
We were way
up there.
Yeah, I think we're there.
Yeah,
that's the Arctic Circle there. So we were, Dave one time said, you know what's north of us? What? The North Pole. I'm like,
I remember that. So we were at the beach, and he said to me, like, look out to sea. If you were to take a boat and you'd sail out in a straight line, the next bit of land you'd hit? I'd be like, no. I said, it's the North Pole. I'm like, oh wow, okay, well, okay, we're far up north.
It's crazy when you think about that. I mean, once again, like how far north we are of the Arctic Circle.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons, of course, why the Northern Lights are so unique in the Lofoten Islands. I mean, as we've learned through the Aurora Mechanics Masterclass that we did, it's a unique location. You can see the Northern Lights in many places. You can see them in Iceland, you can see them in Northern Canada. But if you imagine the northernmost tip of Iceland literally just touches the Northern Circle, and the Lofoten Islands are like 200 kilometers further north from there. So you're way further north than even the northernmost tip of Iceland, and that puts you into the Aurora Oval, which basically means that the Northern Lights are now everywhere, not only in the northern sky, but all around you, north,
all around.
South,
you're surrounded.
West.
You're just surrounded. Yeah, wasn't that weird? You could look anywhere, and you see that.
And they bounce around as well. So you look one way, and that's the Northern Lights. You set up your camera. By the time you've got your camera set up, you look up, and they're gone, and they're just right behind you. So it felt like we were chasing them all the time. They're incredibly fast. That's the other thing I learned. I never really realized that they actually
are
move
dancing.
that fast. Yeah, literally dancing.
And I've sent the videos to people, and they all think it's sped up. I'm like, no.
Yeah, that's how it is. I know, it's crazy.
A few seconds later, it's gone, and it's somewhere else. It was a challenge.
It was an amazing experience. And of course, I just mentioned it again. Actually, there's a little announcement that we've made in last week's episode. In fact, we were talking about Roel, the model. He was the guest on last week's episode. So if you're interested in listening to his side of the story, and maybe you want to learn a little bit about
later on this week,
if you want to learn a little bit about what it's like to be a model, especially a historical model, then have a listen to last week's episode of the Camera Shake podcast.
Yeah.
Very interesting conversation. But here's the thing. So I think we've announced it. I think we've mentioned it last week. But obviously, there's another workshop coming on the 25th of January till the 1st of February. But Adobe have just thrown in a super special offer, because the first 10 people to book onto our workshop in the Lofoten Islands will get a whole year's free subscription to the entire Adobe Creative Cloud. So that's worth.
That's amazing.
If you think about it, that's worth about $700, because I think that's roughly about how much it would cost for a yearly annual subscription. So, if you're interested,
amazing.
then get on it. hop over to idavewilliams.com/training. That's it. idavewilliams.com/training. And if you're thinking about, getting on this workshop, then now's the time, and you'll get a whole year's subscription to Adobe's Creative Cloud for free.
You have to get there before it sells out, because there is a limited amount of people in vans, and it's
yes,
it is once in a lifetime. I could not say that. I tell everybody, it's just once in a lifetime. I don't care where you've never seen, and I've been all over, and it's just, Australia, China, all over. I've never seen anything like this. It's just, I was mind boggled many times.
Oh, many times, yeah. It truly is a unique experience. So remember, idavewilliams.com/training. Just check that out. It's an incredible opportunity. Hey, let me just jump in real quick to tell you about the amazing sponsor of this episode, Platypod. Platypod offers innovative camera support systems designed to unleash your creativity. With their stable, versatile, and portable solutions, you can capture stunning shots like never before. And I'm not just saying that. As the host of the Camera Shake podcast, I can personally vouch for Platypod's incredible products. They've become an integral part of the show. In fact, I'm surrounded by various Platypod products holding up lights, cameras, microphones, and so on. It's really helped to transform the way I make the show and the way I shoot at home, in the studio, and on location. But don't just take my word for it. Explore Platypod's website at www.platypod.com to discover their range of products, including the Platypod Extreme, Platypod tripod heads, and the brand new handle, of course. Make sure to follow Platypod on Instagram and Facebook at Platypod Tripods for exclusive updates, tips, and giveaways. By choosing Platypod, you're not only investing in your photography, but you're also supporting the Camera Shake Photography Podcast. Thanks again to Platypod, our amazing sponsor. Platypod, where innovation never sleeps. What I want to talk to you today is your incredible photography, because that's also something that's boggled my mind. And I'll explain it. Well, obviously, if you're watching on YouTube, then I'll be flying in some images in a second. But if you are one of those people listening to the audio version of this podcast, then let me just explain what Paul Colbert does really, really well. So your specialism, in a sense, is you photograph wildlife and instruments together, musical instruments, because that's part of your background.
Correct.
But it's not just animals and musical instruments together. These animals, and this could be anything, squirrels, deer, whatever, birds, but it looks like they're literally playing those instruments. That's nuts. So tell me, first of all, how you came up with this idea, and then we're going to get a little bit into how difficult it actually is to realize those images. But what gave you the original idea?
Well, I'm a musician, jazz musician, saxophonist, and I prepare, like most musicians, you have a day gig. And I prepare band instruments for a living. And one time I was outside, and, as a repair person, you have extra parts and that kind of stuff. And I remember I had this old Barry saxophone, and I have it at the new house too. It's out there. And I just put it up there, and a squirrel went running around it. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. So put a little food on it, and then the birds went to it. I'm like, oh. And back then, I'm like, oh, let's take a picture or two, just see what it's like. And I had the old Rebel, Canon Rebel, I think the XT, with the kit lens, all that stuff. And so I was doing that. I'm like, oh, this is actually kind of cool. And then one thing led to another, and then we had a yard full of instruments. Now we have a front yard and a backyard full of instruments. And people come over and they're like, they like come to the yard to see it all. And then, just like everything else, you want to get better, right? So I'm like, okay, then I got the Canon 5D Mark II, better, faster lens or camera, and then got a better lens, and I wasn't satisfied with them just being there. They need to be interacting with the instrument. Because at first, it landed on, the bass clarinet or whatever. Then that wasn't enough. I wanted them actually, like they're playing it or interacting with the instrument. And all the squirrels I have, they're actually like they're playing the instruments. The birds, I try and get them like they're flying in with their wings spread. Or on the piccolo, I have this one piccolo where the golden finch's head is down, like it's listening if it's in tune or not, that kind of thing. So they're all, now they have to be interacting. And then I had a shoot-through umbrella to block the sun for it. And then I'm like, it needs something to birthday. So I obviously, so then I got the flash up, got the flash going. And when I use flash, it's like a model, but it just kisses it. So it's to the front and to the side because I don't want it to be too much. And there's a learning curve, as you know, with flash. And so I know, plus if it's too close, the birds don't go to it. So it's a balancing thing, but you don't want it to look like a flash. So I moved it farther in front. So it just barely touches, and then that brings out the feather details. So the large majority of my birds have flash. The mammals do not, because it does weird things to the fur. But it's a lot of waiting. Like for example, wait, wrong hand. That one there. That was about 90 hours of sitting outside in the snow. Took
Wow.
2 winters to get that. Because, and I have thousands of shots that are not right. And then you get the one and this is it. And he's dead center, he's looking straight, dead center. Both ears are up because sometimes it's twisted and that kind of stuff. I had the one with the squirrels, singing at the microphone. That was probably about 90 hours.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah, I love it. The one where the squirrel's playing the bugle and has the flag. So I had to be out there when the flag was moving, so there had to be wind, and then the squirrel had to be there at the right time, and then the right distance to the mouthpiece. It's a lot of time.
The right time, right place. Maybe Dave Williams should have a word with that squirrel.
He should. He should. And I've talked to like people that shoot, pets and also, baby photography, that kind of stuff. And most time, you're shooting people with their dogs and sit. And they're gonna sit, and then you throw them a bone and they smile, that kind of stuff. Or babies, you lay them there and you just take a picture. But this is, as I tell people, this is wildlife. They don't listen.
So
they're all encouraged, food encouraged. I mean, that's how I get them to the location.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Is actually, how do you? So when let's say you're putting an instrument out there, and I'm guessing, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sort of guessing you've got multiple instruments set up at the same time, or is it just one at a time?
Yeah, I have. Oh God, no. There's probably like 40 to 50 instruments anytime.
Oh wow!
But I focus on one instrument at a time. I get the instrument. I figure out what I want on it. Bird, squirrel. I have ducks playing the piano. The deer, whatever I want, and then these are things you have to consider. The sun.
Uh-huh.
Because the sun has to be at the right location. I also have a 7-foot shoot-through umbrella that I put between it. Most of the time, there's all the food out there. But then when I'm going to go do a shot, the other food's not as replenished as much. So they're going to focus. And I know like blue jays eat different things than cardinals, which eat different things from finches. which eat different things from woodpeckers. So I have to figure out what I want. They all come specific times of the day because it's a zoo out there. And there's animals all day and night, and they come at specific times. They somehow work it out. And like I said, I know where the light is going to be coming from. So I position the instrument so the light's going to be hitting it right. And then you always have to consider the background, because the background makes or breaks a photo, breaks a lot of photos. So you have that, and a lot of planning, just a lot of planning. And I've learned so much about animals. And there was a bird food store, wild bird food store, in Illinois, and I talked to them all the time because I found stuff, I need to know how to track them. So I found stuff out, like winter, they need food with more fat in it.
Right.
So you put out different food and that kind of stuff. And it's every day I have to replenish bird feeders, put stuff out for the deer. Because if they stop coming, they stop coming.
So do you have multiple cameras set up at any one time, or
just the one camera?
You get to think like, okay, I want to, I don't know, photograph a woodpecker with this bassoon or something, I say, for argument's sake. And then then you get to pick out the right type of food for a woodpecker. Then you get to think I guess, what times are the most likely times that woodpeckers are feeding, sort of a thing, and then attract them to that location. And then you got to make sure that you're there literally at the right time when everything's in the right place, the sun, everything, and then you've got to literally just sit tight and wait for it to happen. Well,
you have to be patient. Actually, Steve on Behind the Shot asked me, what's the one thing I would give, information for, wildlife? I says, patience, and I have a lot of shots, but when you get these shot, it. It's just like, there it is.
Yeah.
And I mean, weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks per shot. And I can't, I have a job, so I can't sit out there all the time. It's just like just hours behind hours for every shot.
So when you're taking those shots, are you indoors or are you actually outside? Are you behind glass, let's say? You're outside, right? Okay.
No, I'm outside because I don't want, obviously any reflection or anything like that. So I sit outside in the winter. Like I said, I don't mind the cold. You bundle up and you just sit out there and wait.
So are you in a hide or are you like out of the open? I'm just wondering because
no, I'm open. That's why I have to be there, and they get used to me being there. But if I move, they fly away. So I have to be, and this is tricky. People don't even think about. There's things you find out that nobody even thinks about. I don't know if you know this. The Earth spins around the sun. So I set up my shoot-through umbrella. Well, 15 minutes later, it's moved.
Right.
So what I could be shooting in the shade is now in the sun. So I take the rotation in mind, and it'll be at the edge, and then it'll be over here, and then I have to move it. And every time you move it, they go running away. You got like 15, 20 minutes before you have to move it. And that's why you have to know when they come. And I go out there and move it very quietly and gingerly, and they still fly away. If you make noise, they'll go. And they fly away, but they don't disappear. And then a couple minutes later, they come back.
Yeah.
But I'm there sitting, and they're used to me. I'm just like, to them, I'm just a yard ornament or something like that. And I sit there with my, I got my, finger on the camera. It's on the tripod, so I just sit there, and then it's just like, and the R6 is amazing. I know you're a night kind of person, but 20 frames a second in silent mode. Patience.
What's the most difficult animal that you've shot? Like the most difficult to capture, basically.
I'm gonna say the deer, because deer sit there all day and night, right? And they don't move much, which is great. But to get the deer in the right place, looking the right, it's the interaction. Like I said, I could go up right now and get a bunch of different animal shots. But like the timpani, I want them looking dead center. Squirrels, they're fast. And I try to shoot 1,500, 2,000, 2,000 of a second, because the squirrels, they're so small that if they go, if they're going like this, they're so small that it's way faster than when we do it. So you have to be 1,500 to 2,000s for it to be crystal clean. Otherwise, you get a little blur. And the birds, it's waiting, and you just look through thousands of shots. Just nope. And a lot of times you'll spend the whole day and you know if you got it or not. So you just delete that whole day. Why even bother uploading it? And there's a lot of days, probably 60, 70% of them, you're sitting there, you're not even pressing the trigger because there's nothing worth it. Like I said, and it's not a matter of them just being on it. It has to be, interacting. Like the blue jays, I have a couple with the trumpet and English horn with them flying in and their wings are spread. So you can't be looking through the camera. So you're there. Keep on doing it wrong. That's what people can say. So you're there, and then I'm looking, and they all have their own calls and that kind of stuff. So I'm looking for movement up high, and as soon as they start flying, towards there, I'm holding the trigger. They may not land on it, but the one time you don't hold the trigger, they're going to land on it.
Yeah.
So there'll be hundreds of them, flying right by it, but not landing on it. So it's a patience. It's patience. They all have their own issues. Those little birds, I'm floored how fast they are. All right, so my hardest one, I just dawned on me, was the hummingbird. I only got one shot of a hummingbird because they're not consistent. And so I wanted the hummingbird feeding out of the saxo neck. And I just sat there for hours because they'll come regularly and then they won't come for a couple days. And you're just sitting out there. Oh, no hummingbird today.
Yeah, it just sounds like an incredible thing to muster up that degree of patience to get those shots.
Craziness, they call it.
Yeah, it's crazy. Because I know that, I've seen many a camera club, a photo club competition where there's some kind of bird on a stick, or there's usually, I don't know if you've got this in the States as well, but it's a very common type of image over here in the UK in a camera club setting. It's like a little field mouse on a branch, or a field mouse climbing up some flower or something. And of course,
yeah.
You see those images initially and you kind of go like, oh wow, like what a coincidence, to find a field mouse climbing a flower, until you realize, no, these are all studio shots. They're completely staged. It's a thing. It's like an event, like you go to I don't know what they call it, bird on a stick or field mouse on a flower event or something. But there's obviously somebody's got field mice in captivity and a bunch of flowers like a set. And then you go and you photograph those. But of course, in your case, it's just incredible to create that literally in the wild.
I have a couple more images, because I have a bunch of birds, that kind of stuff. Now I'm working with dogs. And so I'm trying to get dogs playing and then butterflies. butterflies on instruments.
Which was that easier to train, dogs or butterflies as well? You know?
Well, I have found out trade secrets, which I won't say on here, about how they get the butterflies, and you probably know.
Oh,
butterflies
I don't know.
how they get the butterflies in place and all that kind of stuff. Because I'm always like, how do they do that? You know, the amazing ones.
Yeah.
And I can't. I'll tell you off screen.
I'll tell you one thing. It's so funny. I had a conversation with Don Komrechka was on the show, and we were talking about macro photography. And when he's got these amazing images of insects and stuff like that, you know, and you go like, how the heck do you how do you photograph that fly or whatever it might be? You know, how do you get that thing to stand still so you can get a super mega close up macro shot of its eye? And then I just ask him like, are they dead? And he goes like, well, yeah. You know, it's like, well, okay, well, that makes sense. All right.
The butterflies will not be dead. What they do is they're frozen.
Oh, that's the other thing. Yes, he did say that. That's right. I remember.
Yeah, so they're frozen. You put them out. No, I haven't. This stuff I have to work out. How do I get a frozen butterfly to sit on something? You know, because you can't glue it or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So if it's frozen, I'm assuming it's going to fall over. So it's going to be timing where they're just starting, and you want the wings to just be, because my dream shot would be, let's just say, on a bassoon vocal. And the wings have a little bit of motion, but the eyes are crystal sharp. You know? So it's going to be a lot of staging. My goal was to do it this summer. I did not get to that, but I'm hoping to do that next year. And then they'll, you know, fly free.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you have raccoons where you live?
We do. There are some animals that are would not be popular pictures. Raccoons would be some of them.
Oh, right. Okay. I love raccoons. I have to say, my favorite animal.
Oh, are they? I like them. They are so smart.
I know. It's, you know, I keep saying this to my wife. Unfortunately, it's probably, I'm pretty sure it's illegal over here in the UK, but you know, if I had a choice, I'd have a pet raccoon. Like, you know, they have opposable thumbs. Come on. You know
what I want?
Stuff.
I would love to, and you can't do it, and I shouldn't say this, but I'd love to have a monkey.
Yeah.
I mean, how fun would it be having a monkey in the house?
Right.
And then I can get him to play anything.
Yeah.
But we have ducks that come here. We have turkeys. I have a couple shots of turkeys. Nothing that's like makes you go, wow. They all have to go, wow. And it's like this is what got me thinking about this a long time ago when I got into this. There's billions of amazing cardinal pictures and robin pictures and blue jay pictures. And like you said, they're on a stick. You know, it's like, oh yeah, it's another amazing bird on a stick. But who has them on, you know, a banjo?
Exactly.
You know, that kind of stuff. So it's just, I could shoot just birds, but to me that's, and this will upset people because they're doing it, but to me it's not as exciting. You know, it's not as creative.
Exactly. Yeah. This is, I was going to come to that, because, you know, I think it doesn't really matter what type of photography you're into, whether it's landscape photography or whether it's, you know, photographing animals or whatever it may be. But it's you know, the creative aspect. I think that's important. Of course, in the beginning, but you know, when we first get into a particular type of photography, of course, you know, we learn by copying,
studying.
You know, by studying and by copying.
Just like music.
Just like music. we learn on the guitar, we learn by copying other guitarists' guitar solos, for example. We do that for some time. And the way I always describe it is, like when I was a kid, I used to listen to lots of different guitarists. I used to learn guitar solos or bits of guitar solos. And, there'd be a Hendrix solo that I'd love, and I'd learn a bit of that. And there'd be a Van Halen solo that I love, and I'd learn a little bit of that. And then there'd be, a George Benson solo, and I learn a bit of that. And then there'd be a Joe Pass thing that I learn a bit of that, and whatever. And, and years later, you throw all of these different musical elements into a pot, you stir it, and years later, what you get out is you. And that's why people sound different. If you change the ingredients, the end result is going to be slightly different. So there's going to be a point where hopefully I sound like me, Kirsten sounds like Kirsten, and then when you hear somebody else play, they sound different because they've had different ingredients that they threw into the pot, as they were growing up and everything.
And you could listen to the same people. I mean, if you look at any jazz musician, but we'll talk about saxophonists, I mean, most of them listen to the same players.
Yeah.
But yet we all play different. It's because your life experiences go into it as well. And your sound. I'm convinced with wind instruments, not acoustic instruments, guitar, piano, that kind of stuff. But with wind instruments, a lot of your sound is internal because you switch mouthpieces and that kind of stuff. It's different, but it's still your sound, your oral cavity and everything. It all affects it, So you could have two people that grew up and listened to the exact same stuff, and they'll sound completely different. It's no different than photography.
Yeah, it's exactly
I look
the same.
back at stuff I did a couple of years ago. I'm like, oh, this is terrible. And then I contemplate maybe I should go back and, fix some stuff because Photoshop is amazing now and Lightroom, all this stuff that 10 years ago you didn't have, 5 years ago you didn't have. And I look at this stuff and I think, I should go back and do something with that.
Funny enough, I very rarely do that. And the reason why I very rarely do that is because I have a tendency to look forward. So, I mean, sometimes I come across, like, especially on Facebook. Facebook does this all the time. Like, on this day in 2012. Yeah. And you look at the thing that you posted then, it's, for us as photographers, of course, we post stuff on Facebook and Instagram all the time, because it's a visual, to an extent, it's a visual medium. And so, so these pictures come and you get like, oh man, I remember shooting this, but wow, that's terrible now. But I very rarely go back because I'm always thinking about the next thing that I'm going to do. What's the next thing going to be? And then to me, it's always been the creation process of that. That's the fun part. And then once I've done that, I'll sort of move on to the next thing.
I completely agree because now, I'm thinking like we talked about the low key photography. So that's I'm like thinking about this, and it's just how can I be creative to it? Because I'll make this a jazz conversation. You take the picture, that's nice. A good picture is a good picture. But what can I do with that? As you know, because I send you some of the things I took from Norway.
Uh-huh.
Did it necessarily look like that when I took a picture? No. But who cares? It's like you can listen to 100 solos of, let's just say, Satin Dow, anything. They're all different. And I like being creative. Taking the picture is nice, but every picture I always take, it's like, what can I do with it now? And that's what I think about way back when, all the stuff I could do to these pictures now. Because I enjoy the creative aspect of everything. Playing, photography.
And this is, you like this one because often when I do talks, for instance, at camera clubs or something, and I explain, I talk about my approach to creating in camera and then post-production or editing, right? And I always explain it this way. And sometimes I actually even have a guitar and an amp with me. This is how I explain it. I always explain it like this. Imagine an electric guitar. Like an electric guitar on its own hardly makes any sound at all. It's very quiet. It sounds very tinny. It doesn't really even sound like a guitar. It sounds twangy.
Yeah.
You can't really hear it. It's great when you're practicing because the neighbors are not going to get annoyed or anything. But an electric guitar on its own really doesn't make hardly any sound, and it doesn't really sound like what we would imagine an electric guitar to sound like what we're used to listening to electric guitars on recordings and so on.
Yeah.
An amplifier on its own also doesn't make any sound at all. It's just an inanimate box with a speaker in it, essentially. So on its own, an amp is worthless. It's not musical in that sense. It doesn't actually produce any sound. But when you put the two together and you plug the guitar into the amp, what you all of a sudden get is beautiful music and incredible sound. And I serve... Hopefully, if you're a good player, yeah, that's it. I mean, if you don't play, but that's where you get the sound. And so I look at the shooting part and the editing part in the same way. Like the shooting part's like the electric guitar, and the editing part's like the amplifier. When you put the two together, you get the beautiful end result. And just like with an electric guitar, when you think, I mean, we're sort of deep diving into guitarist land for a second. But if you're playing a Fender Stratocaster and you want to get a particular sound, you're already thinking, what kind of amp am I going to put this in? If I want to sound like Hendrix, I need to put it through a Marshall head and a 4x12 speaker cabinet. I know that because that's the sound I want. But if I want to sound like somebody else, maybe I want to use a Vox amplifier or a Fender, or whatever. Likewise, if it's a different guitar, if it's a Gibson Les Paul, for example, there's so many different examples and so many different combinations that will give you different results. And so in photography, it's really the same thing. It's you can sort of go down the line and say, like, I want to create in camera, and that's my final shot. And often that's followed because that's how it used to be done. And I always think, like, well, but that's not how it used to be done, because you used to shoot a film, then it used to go in the dark room, and then you used to fuff around with stuff in the dark room. So like that was never how it was done ever.
The people, and I don't think about this. There are a lot of people that it should be 100% perfect in camera, and I think that's so limited because I picture the camera as practice. You're doing what you have to, blah 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 blah, and then the Photoshop, Lightroom stuff, that's like soloing.
Exactly.
You do the one so that you can, and the practice has to be correct, and then your photo has to be correct. But then it's just like your imagination is the only thing limiting you.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just like
exactly.
That's what I want.
Yeah, the things, I think the misconception very often is, often when I'm quite often part of these sort of discussions, is it better to get it right in camera or edit or whatever? But the
camera has to get it right. But
yeah, and you have to get it right for the edits. That's how I always explain. Like when I do anything, like say for instance, when I shoot like the 3 edits in a row or something, when you look at the raw image, of course everything is there. The lighting is there, and the pose is there, and the interaction is there, and all that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of stuff, a lot of magic that basically happens in the edits. But I shoot it for the edits. So I shoot it in the way that I know that I need to shoot it in order for it to work in the edit. So stage one is only the beginning, and I need to get things absolutely right in camera for me, so that I know that the edit is going to work on it. So that's the thing.
Yes. Oh, that's what I'm saying. So the practice has to be perfect, because wrong practice, we all know that line. You practice it wrong, you're going to play it wrong. So if you get practice perfect makes perfect, not practice, but that's a whole other thing. But so you get, it has to be right in the camera. You cannot fix a bad picture, but you get a good picture. Your imagination is the only thing out there that's eliminating you. And now, like, we'll just get to the Norway thing real quick, because you gotta go. Remember the phone?
Oh yeah.
And I mean, it's another tool now. And then it has the Bluetooth, flash that I took some wonderful pictures with. It's just, but that's gets you to the spot. So now I can do the Photoshop stuff I want to, and I have some shots inside the cabin that were done with just the phone and the flash that triggered with it.
Yeah. So just to get some context to that,
technology.
One of the things that we had with us, one of the many lights and modifiers and stuff that we had with us was a Profoto. I think it's a B1. Was it B1? Well, anyway,
A2.
A2, that's it, yeah. Profoto A2, which essentially works, is a brilliant little flash, but it also, you can trigger it with your smartphone. So it works with the Profoto app on your iPhone or Android device, and you can trigger it. So basically, you can now shoot off-camera flash with your phone. And of course, that is with your phone. Exactly. That's a game changer because it really means that you can create some really amazing photography, just with your iPhone.
You and I, we talked about that because and I'm thinking about my low-key stuff. Everybody's used to being in front of cameras, right? They're not going to get nervous. What's the difference between that and pulling out a camera? They're going to get nervous with this, and then this, they're going to act just like themselves. So plus it's so easy. But that's why I talk about, this generation, the technology. It's the same thing with the music. The technology is 5 years ago, who would have ever dreamt something like that could happen?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's incredible. The thing that I always think is, the technology gets better and easier, and everything else. The one thing that doesn't change is the interaction. I talk a lot about interacting with your subject, for example, because in a lot of the stuff that I do, it's all about the interaction. Whether that's some of the shots we did with our biking models, or whether it's headshots, for example, it's all about interacting with your subject, or whether it's 3 heads in a row, where it's all about the interaction. That whole thing wouldn't work at all. And drawing these extreme expressions out of somebody, it just requires a lot of interhuman sort of interaction. That's the thing that's really the skill. Like I always say this, like shooting the 3 heads in a row, portraits. I mean, once you've figured out how to light it and what your camera settings are, it's not really that difficult. I mean, you just press the button, But it's knowing how to get your subject into that position, into that pose that you want them to be in, and how to get them to give you those extreme expressions. That's the real skill, And
which is what I do with my animals.
Yes,
they need
exactly.
to be giving me an expression without interaction. That's hard.
Yeah. But in your case, it's all about really the skill is really in the setup. It's in the it's in the inception of the idea, and then the sheer tenacity and patience that's required to actually.
That's where the skill is.
For the show. That really is where the skill is. Yeah, absolutely. And that's to me, I've always been fascinated by that because for me personally, I'm not very much of a landscape photographer, because I always say, like, I just can't see myself getting out of bed at 4 o'clock in the morning and then sitting in a field staring at a tree, waiting for the sun to come up. I'm fascinated by people that can do that. I maybe at some point I'll be able to do that, but I'm like, that's why I love portrait photography in a sense, because I can get a reaction out of somebody super quick, and then I'll just move on.
Fast, yeah.
Yeah. So that's the thing that's really fascinating. It's your photography, your animals and instrument photography is really, it's mind-boggling because of these. It's hilarious as well. It's got this humor, this humorous thing to it. But you look at it and you go like, "This is really funny. Look at that squirrel playing a trumpet or something."
Yeah.
And I love that in photography is when you can combine like the visual with the sort of emotional reaction, where you sort of where you create an emotional reaction to your picture, and that could be anything it could be anything from like sadness to just thinking, wow, this is really funny. Now I like looking at funny pictures. That's my bag.
Well, I like things that make you feel good and smile. And I hear all the time, oh, it makes me smile. Well, then I succeeded.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's it.
For that picture, for those. Now the Norway, you've probably picked up, I'm maybe going a little more dramatic and maybe not quite so smiling.
Yeah. Oh, that was beautiful. So, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And why not? That was hilarious. And also, for our listeners and viewers, just to give you some context there, we all did portrait photography with our models on location. Paul was known for wanting to create these macabre death scenes. How could I get him to murder her? That was the knife.
I have her stabbing him stabbing her pushing him off a cliff.
Yeah, but it was so much fun.
I mean, you got these Gothic Viking models. I had no desire to make them all pretty. I either want like witchery kind of stuff or doom and gloom.
But the beautiful thing about that is it's just there's a creative freedom to really create whatever you want to create. That's the beauty of it. Because you can.
And if you look at the pictures, if you look at the pictures I took, for example, and Bob took, the exact same pictures, completely different looks because of that. That's what I'm saying. If you get the good foundation picture for your launching pad, then you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's the thing, and of course we did an on location lighting masterclass to start with as well, just to give people the tools. Yeah. Because then, once you figured out how to light something, then you can really just let your creativity run riot and just do whatever it is that you want to do. And then, of course, the opposite in a sense is also true. Sometimes you can come up with an idea. Like there were so many times when we'd arrive at a location and we'd look at the location and immediately go, yeah, I can see, but what if we did that? And then, of course, you then automatically already think like, okay, how am I going to light that in this particular, situation? So that we conjure up this particular sentiment in this particular image. And that was really the fun part. The fun part that, first of all, we had a whole team because it was all of us doing everything. Like sometimes you'd be shooting, sometimes you'd be holding a light,
Sometimes you're holding the light and what's just the difference that there's one location and we're all shooting and we all have a different image in mind. And that's what really intrigued me. It's just like, wow. And then the two models, like I said, I can't speak highly enough of them. They totally killed it. And it was freezing, and as you know, there's behind the scenes shots where they got the big blankets over them, to keep warm. It's like 40 degrees, Fahrenheit. And, it's windy. We're on, the Arctic Sea with the waves splashing and that kind of stuff. And they're out there with not much clothes. We're bundled up, freezing, And then one would shoot, as soon as they get off, here's a blanket, put it around you, go sit in the car. We'll call you when we want you to freeze again. But not once, you may not know this, but not once did they complain. They were, like I said, and they were even the Milky Way shots at night. I mean, the Northern Lights at night. I mean, they're there. They're coming dressed up there. They're there in the morning and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it was a once in a lifetime, workshop. Like, said many, many times, right place, right time.
Yeah.
And Dave, man, we got to go. All right. Now it's a half hour away. It's and he has all the apps and I got to talk. And Dave also wrote, the best-selling book about shooting Northern Lights. And and I got to talk to him about the apps because I want to look at northern lights around here or something like that and figure out where, that kind of stuff. But it's just like,
yeah, there was and I think I talked to Rule about this in last week's podcast episode as well. It was, it's just incredible how many data points there are, and how many different things you have to consider. I mean, it was just because Dave he wasn't just looking at one app; he was looking at 10 different apps, and like
he had
different weather stations.
Labs.
And
the weather stations, but not just that, the electrons and protons, and how high they are, and then they were accurate enough where they're saying, okay, 2 hours, this is going to be a 40 or something like that. It's an hour and a half away. We got to go.
Yeah. I mean, we had that on so many different occasions where it was like, okay, right, we're going for dinner, and then literally it was like, okay, guys, we have to move out. Get your coats, get your coffee.
This is him. This is him during dinner. And am I lying? He's every time he's eating, he's looking at those apps, figuring out where, if it's going to happen, if it's not going to happen, where we got to go, and then we'd be at one location. And then, all right, we got to hurry up and get to this location because this location's going to have it now in a half hour. And it's the sky, it's the wind, it's the temperature, it's the dew point, it's the protons, electrons.
The holes in the clouds, that's the other thing.
Oh, God, yeah.
And the accuracy was pretty boggling.
How high the clouds were. The clouds are too low. These clouds are higher. Yeah, you guys killed it. And I want to go up there maybe next winter. Go there in the winter because I want to shoot some snow stuff. Because I saw in the fall, which was so lush, it was gorgeous. But now I want to see it with the snow.
Yeah, it'll be incredible, no doubt. Paul, where can people find your photography on the web?
paulkoberphoto.com. And then I should have looked this up, what my Facebook and Instagram is. I have it bookmarked.
Brett, obviously all the links are going to be in the description of the podcast episode, and of course if you're watching on YouTube, you'll find all those details in the video description as well.
They're all Paul Kober something. I think like Facebook may be Paul Kober _52 for some reason. It's the one I got, so I don't know.
Awesome. So so if you're watching on YouTube, I'll put all the links at the bottom of the screen, and of course you'll find them in the description as well. Paul, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the Camera Shake podcast. I'm sure.
Thank you. It was fun.
I'm sure you'll be back at some point. Definitely. And that was so much fun. Thank you so much. And again, if you are interested in Paul's photography, especially animals with instruments, which totally blew my mind, then make sure you check out his website. It is a once in a lifetime experience. And again, I'll just plug it one more time. There's going to be another workshop happening at the end of January, 25th of January to the 1st of February. All you have to do is go over to idavewilliams.com/training. And if you are so inclined and you sign up, you will get a full year's subscription to Adobe's Creative Cloud thrown in, and that is worth over $700. That's going to be worth it. So you can save yourself a ton of money there at the same time. But anyway,
and let me say this: it's not nearly as hard to get there as you think.
Yes,
it was actually. I was like, oh, it's going to be so hard. It was not hard at all. Everybody thinks it's so far. It's not that hard to get to.
Yeah, it's surprising. It's surprising actually. The infrastructure there is surprisingly good. Okay, folks, that's all for today. Some incredibly creative photography from Paul Kober today. But before we go, let me just recommend another episode that I think you'll love. Check out episode 171 with Dave Williams, where we discuss wildlife photography in the Arctic. I'm sure you'll love it. If you enjoy our content, consider supporting us on buymeacoffee.com/camerashake to help us continue creating and bringing you more exciting episodes. It really does mean the world to us. And for those of you who are listening to the audio version of this podcast, I'm going to have to cut this. No problem. sometimes the teleprompter sticks.
Yes.
And for those of you who are listening to the audio version of this podcast, did you know that there's a fully fledged video version over on YouTube with plenty of examples of our guest photography in full Technicolor? All you have to do is go over to YouTube, search for Camera Shake Podcast, and you'll be able to watch all past episodes on there. And if you're on YouTube already, well, get in touch and leave a comment, and remember to hit the like button, ring the bell, and share with your friends. You can help us reach a greater audience all over the world. Once again, thank you for listening, watching, and I'll see you next Thursday.